What a powerful emotion fear is, and what an even stickier situation we often find ourselves in when we come across it. It's something we deal with when it comes up, and we just cope with it, honestly. I guess that would be a very good thing if it was a state of mind that wasn't ever present, okay? But fear is everywhere. It surrounds us like a cocoon. It's all over the news, social media, movies, music, the classroom, the mirror, in our own homes, other people, and our identities. The most important thing to keep in mind is that it's really our lower selves, our lower minds, and our most primal selves that have utilized this emotion to survive. But it is less effective in a civilized world. It actually becomes a hindrance. Therefore, the emotion of fear isn't problematic in and of itself. It serves a function, but in a limited capacity. Fear should be something we first accept is there, and then we can release it, right? We're not going to act like it's not there because we all deal with fear in one way or the other. Okay? That way, we walk through fear. We break free from its shackles. That's what this video is all about, okay? And I'm gonna show you all the ways to be aware of how your environment pushes fear on you without your consent. You don't have to be scared of every little thing you see on the internet and on the news. It's detrimental and removed from actual reality, contrary to popular belief in social programming. Think about all of the moments you have had fear show up. It's probably innumerable. Fear is best illustrated through examples. Okay, so we're going to use a lot of examples and scenarios in this video. Okay, one we can use is investing and being free with our money. There's this guy, right? He's making about $7,000 per month, which comes out to $84,000 a year. Okay, believe it or not, this guy's making more money than most people on earth. Yet he is plain scared to put his money anywhere other than his bank account. In his bank account, his money is safe, it's accounted for, it doesn't fluctuate, it's where he knows he can grab and use it at will. And this is pretty comfortable and he'd rather hold on to his money. There's nothing inherently wrong with this. But say he decides to invest just 5% of his income in the S&P 500 every month, and his money goes up 10% annually, at least according to history, okay? I'm not a financial advisor. But if he stays consistent, history says, okay, 10%. All right. His money then compounds and he now has much more money than he worked for. He has money that he only put in a different place and abundance followed. That is the truth of the psychology of money and life. If you don't have the willingness in your mind to trust in the process and achieve things that many others have, then you cannot get that thing. It is elusive because you make it elusive. This is the ultimate rule of fear. It's an obstacle, an inhibitor, something that slows us down and even keeps us still in the mud. Little do we know we can drag our foot through it, then up and out of the mud. All we have to do is move our legs. The body doesn't move without the mind. The brain also doesn't move without the mind. The brain and the mind are two separate entities. The brain experiences the mind just as the body does. This is why many people have the trouble of fighting their own thoughts and habits, just like when we experience fear. Making this distinction can help you realize that you are a higher being, not a physical matter only. You can achieve great things, but you have to take control. The biggest realization in transcending fear is the fact that you've had your hands on the wheel this entire time, okay? Fear is an illusion. It makes us think we don't have control. We like to believe it's the feeling that prevents us from doing something, but really it's just us. So fear, what does it really feel like? Well, I'm sure you already know, okay? It's this feeling of fight or flight, right? That's what we've labeled the feeling. And so with fight or flight, as we call it, you're posed with a situation or a thought of something in the future or a decision you have to make. And this might make you think, okay, should I stay here and experience this, or should I get away and stay away from this? This was used by our ancestors to understand whether in immediate danger was something worth fighting or worth fleeing in the wild. It's inherently reactionary and it's instinctual. It's far removed from the logic and reason we need to survive in today's paradigm. Yet, we experience this feeling all the time. Why is that? And usually, it's instead of the dangers to our physical health via animals, other humans, and environmental hazards, the reaction is triggered by now dangers to our identity, our ego, our pride, our need for comfort, our fear of being judged, our need to be liked. If we have a problem with fear, usually it means we have a problem of letting go and living how we want and should live. But we're inhibited because we feel like it's safe, we feel like it's the best option, yet the worst option is staying locked in a cage of fear despite the nice bed and carpet within the barred walls, right? Those barred walls are a jail. So when fight or flight is triggered, many times it's because we're imagining something to be detrimental to our safety mentally. Usually it's something challenging, something that will once again break us out of our comfort zone and make us come face to face with our own inner attitudes. Our inner attitudes, thoughts, and feelings trigger the subsequent feeling of fear. So therefore, fear is just something that's created by us and then experienced by us that is something quote unquote external. Okay, and that's the illusion. So here's an example of how most fears are anticipations of the future and not actual threats. Okay, we'll just use like a random girl for this example. So a girl gets invited to a party and she wholeheartedly wants to see her friend, yet she knows that her crush is going to be there. Plus, she isn't much of a social butterfly. She likes to read. I mean, she kind of just likes to do her own thing, right? And I can subscribe to that as well. She thinks about her interactions with all of the guys at the party. She imagines herself to be awkward. She imagines herself to be stumbling over her words. She imagines herself as having weird facial expressions that turns guys off, including her crush. She imagines others talking about her badly because, she's just really, really important. So this is a satire of the silliness of the mind. First of all, most people think about themselves too much to notice that many details about you. And if they do notice those many details, they are probably intrigued by you, and that's a good thing, right? Humans love the imperfections in others at the end of the day. So in this particular situation, this girl just needs to accept herself and love herself for who she is and what she offers. People love authenticity. She can bring to mind the positive interactions she's had with people, the times when others seemed to be more connected to her than usual, the times when she was just being and letting the world come to her as she was. She was light, she was free, within and without. She was experiencing life, not grasping for life, right? And there's a big difference. So our fear often comes from our wants, needs, and desires. But if we let these go, we won't have fear. Might have a little, but not as much. We don't want a desired outcome. Whatever happens, happens in the great energetic flow of the universe. That's real power, right? That's real charisma. That's real tranquility. That's energetic peace. And it's within you. And so, you'd be like, okay, this is within me. All right, whatever. But what about the past? I heard on the news. I saw this on TikTok, etc., right? This might be the hardest thing to detach from. This is programming. And it makes sense because if we've experienced heartbreak, disappointment, rejection, loss, embarrassment, humiliation, and any other negative feeling associated with us taking a risk, we will be fearful of taking that risk again, even if we know it's good for us. Fear is all pervasive. Like I said before, it's everywhere. Exhibit A is our childhood or teenage years. Okay, we'll use an actual name for this example. Take Marcus, 15 years old. He's always been a great athlete. He's used to being faster than his friends. He's used to jumping higher than his friends. He's used to being able to pick up sports much quicker than his peers. He's surely talented, But ever since he's entered high school, he's been faced with a new reality. He's not the most talented in the room anymore. He won't admit it, but this has shaken him up. He went from starting point guard to riding the bench. He has to wait his turn. He has to learn and elevate his play. His skill needs to catch up to the new paradigm he's in. In his mind, he takes "you need to improve" as "you aren't good enough." And this simple mentalization sends him into despair until he makes it to the starting lineup the next year. Okay, he's now 16, he's ready to take on this new role, but now he has a new hurdle. He can't play free and confidently anymore. He's so afraid of making mistakes that he is making mistakes on the court. He's not playing basketball, he's playing pick me. He's trying to prove a point to his coach, but in the process, he's hurting his very ability to do that thing. His fear makes him shaky where he would otherwise be in flow. His fear makes him silent on the court instead of the leader they all know him to be intrinsically. He says to himself, what if they don't vibe with what I say? What if I call the wrong play? Goes on, and it's simple. We get in our own way, even though an external event actually spurred it in the first place. So fear is all about our own inner feelings, thoughts, and emotions about ourselves that is projected outward, right? That's very important to keep in mind. Okay, let's use another example. Exhibit B. This example is how parents project their fears on their children, who then take on those same fears. This is why racism and other rigid thought forms like political affiliation are often generational, because they are absorbed from the ones we hold with high esteem, the ones who shape us. Think about the thought forms you have on a daily basis and ask yourself, is this actually my opinion, or did someone else tell me this? Have I actually identified with this thought, and why? Why does it help me? Just how does it help me? I would say sometimes and oftentimes it is the experiences of others that makes us fearful in the first place. This is easiest to see in the media. I mean, we see it all the time, right? Think about all the stories of dangers and turmoil. That hiker who died of heat stroke in the desert, or who was mauled by a bear. That celebrity who was once loved and is now the poster child for projected guilt and shame. The presence of mass shootings in the United States. That person who was diagnosed with a rare version of cancer by being exposed to certain chemicals. And the same thing can happen to you. Danger, danger, danger. There's danger everywhere. So really pay attention to the news if you even watch it. Tell me in the comments how many positive stories you see and how many negative ones you encounter. I will pay you $100 million if you find a traditional news show that displays even 25% of positive stories. Okay, I actually won't. I don't even have 0.01% of that, but happy hunting. So people often view the news as the way the world is, right? And the main point is that this couldn't be further from the truth, right? Because the news broadcasts and projects the most noteworthy happenings in a given place based on our inner feelings of fear. So the news messed up. The news manipulates us into thinking the world is jacked up, sideways, and a little bit like discombobulated. Sure, the world is a cruel place, but the news dramatizes this and makes it the only thing we can think of. There's this war, this killing, this tax hike, this scandal, this homelessness problem. These are happenings in the world, but they are often outside of our immediate realities. So, in essence, we are really just taking on the stress of the world, partially because we chase the feeling of fear in the first place. It makes us feel alive, and we are partially entertained by it. Yet it keeps us from putting the world in the proper context and experiencing our reality for what it is without projecting all of the learned negative nonsense into it. So, in essence, we are all deeply programmed, and once you understand that, you have really already gained immense inner freedom. We can take the news example and we can extrapolate it to many other things, including social media, entertainment, and just other people's opinions, right? We take on the thoughts and feelings of other people through stories, ideas, and through even what some would call facts, okay? But the most important thing about facts is that they are just data half the time. Facts only fit within a specific paradigm a lot of the time and are more often than not used for personal gain. So facts are used to control others. And the thing is, facts can change over time. So you really have to ask yourself, okay, what truly makes a fact? Many facts we get from science, which is the highest form of logic and reason, is primarily based on theory. Now, theory is a little bit different in science, right? There are different terms for theory, but think about the things that you basically take on, the thoughts and emotions that you take on from other people, make up your own mind, know yourself, come to your own conclusions without being ignorant, look within. And once you look within, you'll find the answers to all of your questions because the answers are always there, right? And so we'll kind of come back to this central thing, which is saying fear is a projection, right? We have all been guilty of it, and it's beyond just those moments when we are angry and we lash out at others. Because we also project our guilt, shame, and low self-esteem onto events that haven't even happened. As described before, we often run the gamut of negative scenarios, and we might tell ourselves, for example, what if we get the job and they figure out we're not as talented as we put on during the meeting? What if she gets tired of my company and leaves me? Fair. What if I go on stage and I trip over my own shoelaces? That one's a little bit more outlandish, but, just came to mind. What if I try to sell this car and the buyer knows more than I do? Will they lose respect for me? And then in this moment, you might say, forget it. I'm not made to sell cars anyway. This is nothing more than a mental prison. And we have arrested ourselves. This is the power of the mind. It has immense creative power. Have you ever heard that what we hold in mind often manifests in reality? This is because we are giving so much energy to the things in our minds that our actions have no choice but to follow down that path of creating that reality. We all very much know that the mind is a creative tool, and we've used it to build and mold everything we see in our environment. So keep that in mind. You can use your mind to create favorable situations, or you can use it to create detrimental situations for yourself. It's a concept that might seem more complicated than it actually is. So think about the times that you've stopped yourself from doing something because you said, I can't. Think about the stories of people who said they were going to do something big and they did exactly that. Every achievement or major change we want to see within ourselves starts with us first believing we can manifest that thing, or else we would be less likely to try in the first place. So check in with yourself. If you're getting in your own way, get out of the way. Don't be the reason why something doesn't happen for you. That would be self-betrayal. Let's call it for what it is. Your inner fears are projected onto the world. I think some of you might be seeing a theme here. The brain doesn't know the difference between imagined and real threats. So your imagination has immense power. The imagination is the vehicle for self-betrayal. Fear is really directed by you like a movie. Fear becomes part of the identity. The specific fears we hold on to become part of who we are, and this is why they are so sticky. Believe it or not, there is a payoff we get from the feeling of fear in the first place. In this moment, when we feel fear, we can be victims, we can be comfortable, we can side skirt other negative feelings hiding right underneath that fear, we can run away from ourselves. A lot of people will do anything to run away from themselves. But understand that fear is really an invitation to excitement. Fear is an invitation to life, but you have to accept the invitation in the first place. Fear doesn't have to be a roadblock, it can be the compass that leads you down the path of growth. Now, let's use addiction, for example. Addiction is something that is very common in our society, and we can find it everywhere. Many people in this situation are scared of being with their own thoughts, with their own true feelings, with their realities. So they turn to social media to escape or some other drug. They are fearful of themselves and of their real lives. But if they decide to say no to social media and yes to themselves, they can learn about their true nature, the source of their thoughts, their true passions, and what truly makes them happy. That's what life is about. They may even find inner peace because they are actually familiar with themselves. Sure, they were scared to go through this process to begin with, but moving through it brought profound benefits, and now they are happier than ever. Fear was merely telling them that they had something to address, something to focus on. So, the most important thing that you can understand is that fear is a communicator. It provides a pathway of growth, and it can be really thrilling, honestly. Remember, fear isn't bad in and of itself. You have to let go of your fear of feeling fear itself. Feel the fear, acknowledge its presence, and move forward with that tingly feeling anyway. A good way to do this is by introducing a little bit of playfulness into the equation. So instead of focusing so intently on yourself, your thoughts, your perceived troubles, you can focus on the situation at hand. Focus on the person in front of you, for example. Or if you're playing music, you can focus on the instrument to be played, or the text or email that needs to be sent, or even just the sounds and objects in your environment. Okay? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be perfectly yourself. Just perfectly yourself. That's all you need. Having a curiosity about life and its weirdness will also help. Understand that we all end up in the same place at the end of the day. Everything we perceive as a threat to our existence is small talk because we all will die eventually. The worst thing that can happen to you is already destined to happen to you. So, at least through my lens, life really isn't as serious as we like to make it. And I would say that life and its situations are about as serious as we make them. So just be curious about life and detach from outcomes. You don't need anything, you are just living, and that's good enough. You'll be surprised how much this type of mindset brings you. Okay, you'll start to become the attractor instead of the attracted. You'll have an inner energy others want and that others feel and that others see without saying a word to you. Because in this moment, you start to become magnetic. So, importantly, just identify with the experience of life and not your fears. What we identify with becomes our way of experiencing our lives. Remember, our inner world projects outward. So, the work you do on yourself will manifest changes in your external world, which is always a reflection of you and your thoughts. Your interpretations of the world are based on who you are. Think about all of the nagging fears you have in your life right now. Take a moment to think about it. Pick one to deconstruct and to release. Ask yourself why you fear. And then ask yourself why again. And then keep asking until you get to the core of the issue, and then you'll understand. Just ask why. The answers are always within you. And that's something that we will be preaching on this channel from the start to the end. I think a lot of people look for answers outside of themselves when really they know exactly what they need and what they should incorporate. Often our problem is that we are scared to go deep enough to recognize and understand the true nature of our issues. So this simple and effective practice will help with that specifically. Remember, fear is just a thought we've constructed through different means. It's an illusion of the mind. So when you see it for what it is, it loses its power. All the power you gave it. Now take your power back. It's yours to keep. Thanks for watching D'Angelo Unfiltered. I had fun putting this together for you. I'm very excited to be able to provide some insights just from my worldview. Whether you believe in what I say or not, I think that there's something valuable that you can take from the things that I say, and that is my hope. Like I said before on this channel, this will be a place where you can come and grow, where you can learn about mindset, where you can learn about psychology, and you can deconstruct some of the negative aspects of yourself and lift up the positive sides of yourself. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.